Frank is dying from PSP, progressive supranuclear palsy, an evil stepsister of ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease, a third cousin twice removed from MS. He has a history of college football, motocross wrecks, automobile racing wrecks, mountain climbing falls, skydiving, one small plane crash, and he, quote, walked away from, end quote, street fighting as a teenager and professional boxing, to name a few. He has had 59 surgeries from 45 injuries. Yes, 59. But he is a nice guy, a gentleman. He presented needing help with a walker and a shoulder to fall against every other step. He was unable to turn his head more than 20 degrees in either direction. He could not flex or extend his neck at all. He was in pain from head to foot, but smiling. His wife spoke for him as he lost the gift of speech 2 years ago. He just mumbles. His mind is the steel trap it has always been, but he can't speak. He can write his thoughts in very small text as his fingers are numb, but he can write. He never stops smiling. His wife said he has the gentlest, kindest heart of any man she has ever known. I asked about the street fighting as a retort to her words. She said he loves boxing. His mother would not let him box in a club, so he fought in the street. A very practical man. He is a trainer for a very well-known football team. He can't lift weights anymore, but he shows up in the weight room for the players' instruction and help. He communicates by writing on a whiteboard. The team has to squint to read his glyphs. They love him. His wife, because of his disability, had to go to work, and so it happened that she was working alongside one of my patients who told her about us 3 years ago. Last year, she told her about us again. This year, she told her about us a third time. His spinal and leg pain was to a point that, quote, nothing could be done. His PSP prevented surgery, and pain drugs only worsened the symptoms. Still, he trudged into the workout room every day to help the team, and every day they would help him to the whiteboard, his mind sharp, his muscles wasting. When he sat across from me in my consultation room, I wondered if his neurologist was correct in his prognosis of 3 to 6 months of Frank remaining on this planet. His skin color was good. His eyes had passion and were clear. They had just spent $8,000 on a daily injection experimental treatment spread over 6 months. No change except for increased pain and more numbness in his hands. The doctor said it wasn't the treatment that did it. It was the PSP. They sat there, Frank and his wife, looking at me as I once did when the first opportunity came my way to sit on the lap of Santa Claus. Somewhere I had a big, beautiful present for them in my bag of gifts. As many people do when confronted with a moment of inevitability, they turn to miracles. And the more they look down that hopeful road, the more they leave reality. They knew nothing of what I did, and even less of upper cervical work. I could have been selling view lots on the moon. They were at the end of the road, 3 to 6 months. How much hope does that inspire? Frank's wife, Carol, asked one simple question. Can you help him? Can you help my husband? Do you know what goes through your mind when faced with these odds and then asked a question like that? I'll tell you, if having your spine twisted, torn, stretched, torqued, smashed, fractured, crushed, herniated, splintered, fused, braced, delaminated, and or otherwise broken in several pieces could precede the onset of such a terrible set of symptoms, then what could happen if the effect of all those forces could be reversed? Can we go back in time while in real time? Is it possible to return him to a point before his first serious spinal misalignment, back before the symptoms began? I looked at Carol and said, yes, I believe I can. He had received years of segmental manipulation, mostly from physical therapists, but this was his first upper cervical correction. I worked on him for some time, maybe half an hour. At the point I felt his spine relax, I stopped, and then sent him back to X-ray for a post. I take posts right away, as I need to know what happened now, not 6 months down the road. I had to help him up, but the first miracle was apparent. He didn't need his walker. He shuffled and stumbled and grabbed, but walked on his own. Carol's only response was, oh my God, he's walking. The post X-ray looked good, but there was some misalignment still present. I worked on him a little more, and then we talked about what to expect. I told him to expect great changes. As is usual, he was scheduled a week later for a follow-up appointment. What happened during that week challenged even my credulity. His voice returned the night of his first correction. Only for 2 hours, but he was able to call his children and talk to them over the phone for the first time in 2 years. He hasn't needed his walker since that day as well. His voice comes and goes, but when present, it is stronger than before. He is back to work with new passion. He has started to lift weights again because he can feel his hands. He is still very weak and moves slowly, but he moves on his own and is using the whiteboard less and less with the team. He isn't shouting, but he is writing less and less. His neck pain has gone from a 10 to a 2. His low back pain is gone. His jaw pain is down to a 3. Though he limps, he is walking, not shuffling. He asked me what he could do for me, since I told him I wasn't going to charge him. I said, tell the head coach what has happened to you here, so that they can have a new secret weapon. And when our team wins the conference, and we are at a major bowl game during the holidays, get me on the field with the team, the whole game. With you, Frank. He said in a voice not very loud, not very clear, but one I understood, you got it, Doc.